Our program's fairly new, um, so I kind of was there since the start of the program being built up until now, and it's kind of like my child pretty much. And I'm really passionate about St. Louis itself and the rest of Missouri on becoming a great hub for esports itself. Because I've been in St. Louis ever since I was born. I went to Parkway West High School over in West County. Um, and I've been trying to be a part of the video game scene ever since I was little. Um, some other information about me: I am also the head tournament organizer of the St. Louis Smash scene here, and I'm also the owner of Smash Out Tournaments, which is a tournament series here specifically for Extra Life, where we host fighting games and donate the money towards um, different different hospitals and things like that. So some history about the program itself. It was founded when I was a freshman in 2017, and we got school recognition and became an official club in 2018. Uh, and after the clubs became one of the biggest clubs on campus, it spreaded a lot of interest from the administration. And on top of that, we hosted the NALCS Spring Split in Chaffetz, which is pretty much their spring finals, and it sold out Chaffetz within 2 days, pretty much. And that was like record breaking for the arena. Administration kind of couldn't really ignore it anymore and had to put some investments into esports. And they reached out to the first person they knew, which is me, and kind of gave it a little bit more insight about how the program should be kind of sculptured and built upon itself. And they kind of offered a job to me right after college, thinking that since I was here in the beginning, it'd be really good, nice for me to stay till the end as well. And we started our first esports varsity program in 2020, in the spring of 2020. So technically this is our first full year as an esports program, and we've already grown exponentially. And I'm hoping that next year becomes is the is going to be even bigger than this year. COVID has made things slow down a little bit, but honestly, esports is such a universal, and also just you can pretty much have it anywhere, like in person or online too. That it hasn't really made us um, it hasn't made me slow down in my goals or my prospects, which I really enjoy, especially during a time like this. So some things about the varsity program at St. Louis University. We are for the year of 2021 to 2022, we are a League of Legends and Valorant focused school. Our League of Legends program is actually the thing that we give full ride scholarships for. We started off trying to find we started off building off one challenger player that we had at the school itself. His name is Zari. He's a challenger jungler. And we currently have a roster of diamond players playing on the main roster. But next year, we're trying to take a step up and kind of get to that point where we're next to Maryville and Columbia College level, which are other schools in Missouri. Um, in order to do that, we are trying to scout for Grandmaster Plus players. So that's about the top 500 players in North America for League of Legends. And our current prospects um, are either in that range or are at the challenger level. And the whole reason why we're going for this level of skill is because we want to be able to become a developmental program for collegiate players to eventually either have that possibility of going pro in the very end. And that's kind of what the trend of collegiate is trying to go towards right now. There's a lot of schools that are kind of giving scholarships to kind of like a lot of different players, pretty much anyone who's interested. But I think the in the next 5 years, esports is kind of going to be mimicking traditional sports, in which when you go to college, it's the method and the way to become basically the highest level player and eventually make it towards the pro level play. So that whether or not that is LCS, that's academy, or whatever the highest level of play, we want to be able to be the route to help you get there. Um, and we're not going to be ignoring the players who aren't particularly at that level yet either. We St. Louis University is one of those schools that has a developmental team for those level players. Those are going to be typically the players that we currently have on our roster. They're going to be placed into our developmental team. However, because we're hoisting up more players towards our full scholarship varsity roster, we're going to be having to fill those holes a little bit more. So those developmental players will be given full amount of resources to be able to get to that level in the very end. Um, So that includes things like full challenger roster training. Um, because we have a staff that's able to kind of play at that high level, those players that are on our developmental roster, we're still playing for scholarship money and playing in the highest level of collegiate. We'll be able to get as much support as possible in order to improve their play, which I feel like a lot of schools don't really have in comparison. You go to a school that doesn't have a full challenger roster or is kind of lacking behind in their actual players. um, the support and practice and coaching that they're kind of getting is not at the level as what they would get with a roster that is completely competitive at the tier two or amateur level. These are players that are trying to go towards pro, and to get them to be able to help you um, kind of develop your skills when you're about to approach that level is really helpful, and it helps you a lot when it comes to it, especially when it comes to VOD reviews and things like that. A new game that we're adding for the next semester is actually Valorant. I'm a huge advocate for Riot Games. I think Riot does an amazing job supporting its tier two and collegiate level. You see that with CLOL being one of the biggest organizations in the entirety of collegiate. Um, but you see, but you see a lot of different teams or games kind of fall out with that support. But Riot does it right pretty much every single time. So that's why I'm extremely confident in creating this next Valorant roster that we have for our 2021 and 2022 year. Um, the aim of this Valorant roster is to compete in the Riot Challenger Series, which is coming up in January, and eventually it happens throughout the entire year. Pretty much what the Riot Challenger Series is there, it's kind of like their equivalent of Academy within LCS. So it's like finding the best amateur players to qualify to play against the pros later on. And in order to do that, we're trying to find a Immortal Plus roster to be able to play on this team. Our current roster is actually already Immortal Plus, so we pretty much are trying to fill the holes in there for the next year. Um, and the reason why we cap it at this rank is because in order to compete at the Riot Challenger Series, it needs to be you need to have been immortal at some point on your accounts. But I also want to be able to give those kind of like our academy team for League of Legends, those platinum and diamond players a chance to be able to play. A lot of different open series are available, which allows us to have two different teams. It's kind of like a varsity and JV. I really want to give those kids the opportunity to play at the highest level too, and also get the coaching from those Immortal Plus players. So that's our varsity team, which I feel like for a lot of students, they aspire to get onto those type of teams. The rank disparity is kind of a little bit high, so that's why I want to be able to emphasize how with students, especially in the St. Louis sphere, they can still play in collegiate esports even if they go to a school without a varsity program or not making their current varsity program. And that's kind of like what SLU is trying to do with a lot of people, is create that different tiered place for every student to be able to play video games, whatever their level is, whether or not that's at the highest level, if you still want to compete at the club level, or even at the intramural level. So I kind of want to go more into the club level of esports as well, which I feel like SLU does an amazing job at because it's kind of where I started in the entire organization is at the club level. Um, so we have pretty much every game that you kind of want to think of at the club level. We have one of the top 16 Hearthstone teams in the entire world, in the entire North America. I started off as a Smash TO and organizer, so we have a bolstering Smash scene. We run in some of the biggest Smash tournaments in the entirety of St. Louis, both Melee and Ultimate too. The Smash Out tournament that I was talking about before that I own was actually a St. Louis University exclusive tournament in the beginning, and I eventually branched out to being a regional tournament. Um, that tournament itself gains around about 1,000 attendance a year. Not this past year because of COVID, but every single year before that, we've been having around. We started off with only around 200 entries, and now in 2019 we had around 1,000 entries. So it's growing exponentially. We've been raising about $10,000 for charities through this one event, and it gathers the people across the entire United States. People flew in from Philadelphia, New York, Wisconsin, California, just for this one event. And Flu does a really great job of hosting these events for your students. We also have a great Rainbow Six Siege team, Rocket League team, CS:GO team, a Challenger TFT player who are all able to guide your students to be able to play at the highest level with the club teams right here. This year we actually are taking out our Overwatch team from the varsity level to the club level. Um, Overwatch is a great game, but I feel like the tier two support is kind of lackluster. So I really want to be able to focus on the games that have great tier two organizations and support. Overwatch, I think I think it can come back into play, and I really want to encourage students to continue to play it because I'm hoping once Overwatch 2 comes out, hopefully when it comes out, we'll be able to see the same support too. But a difference with Sleuth and a lot of other schools is the intramural programs that we have. Because we have so many students on campus that love esports, and aren't necessarily able to make the club or varsity team, we still want to give them the opportunity to play as much as possible. So we've partnered with actually a SLU alumni, um, called his name is Brandon Smith. He's actually opening up a business right next door, and his company called Mission Control and the Thymic Rec Center, which is our recreational center, to be able to bring you as many students as possible and give them that competitive experience. And we actually had the largest intramural program on campus because of how many games and how many students we can reach out to, especially during this past year with COVID-19. We saw the increase of our intramural program. These games are a little bit more casual, in which we trying to reach out towards what the club and varsity program can't. But we still have those more competitive video games in our intramural program. These are with our intramurals, they're pretty much matches and Swiss sets that allow you to play against other students on campus. So unlike the club and varsity program, instead of playing other students from other schools, this one keeps it more towards your friends, keeps it more friendly, and keeps it on campus as well. So games that we include in our intramural program are Mario Kart, Smash, Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, Valorant, League of Legends, and a lot more. This program is expanding nonstop because of the growth of mission control and because of the increase of interest within the Simulator program. We're hoping to add a lot more games to it and kind of expand our reach towards not just the sports games and then the two Riot games. We did host an Overwatch intramural in the beginning, and I'm hoping to add that back in for next year. And I'm really hoping to add a lot of more racing games too, things like Forza or things like that, because I feel like a lot of students who play those games are on campus. They just don't really get the um, opportunity to find other people to play with. And this is a great opportunity for you students to continue playing with people um, at St. Louis University. And I kind of want to talk about more about what's life like on campus when you kind of have more of an esports oriented lifestyle. And to kind of give background on that, I kind of need to also talk about what St. Louis University is itself. We are a Jesuit-based education. For those who don't know that is, it's kind of like it's more of a religious lifestyle than it is more than like a you kind of going to church every day, things like that. A lot of it is based on serving others and helping others. And we do that a lot with our esports program itself. Because we're a service-based school, a lot of the way that you can kind of get involved with esports is through your service, whether or not that is tournament organizing or casting or just like participating in the event themselves. We have a lot of opportunities for your student to get involved. Um, so that's a great part of our esports program is that you can kind of learn the ins and out of how to become a professional in esports by physically being there and doing the actual things that you need to do. Um, Unlike other schools where they're trying to sell you on things like an esports degree or um, you can actually have hands-on opportunities to work in these and what will give you the skills to be able to be a productive member in an esports organization or a job based on esports. And a lot of times that's just based on how many events that St. Louis University has. Will Row Company be a competitive thing in the clubs? One thing that I do have to say about just like more obscure games is that you can start the club at any point. You don't have to wait for your varsity program to kind of be the forefront of it. One of the things that I do for my students who really want to start a new game is be that advertisement. Whether or not that's posting in the esports Discord, Facebook, or if it's even just posting like a sign up list in the esports lab. Those are all things that um, I personally will help you do if you just reach out to me yourself. Um, so games, I've had game people talk to me about games like what's the game that's super obscure? So Smite's one of them. Smite's probably one of the more obscure games that we have. We have a party of 3 that can play in the collegiate level of Smite, but that's all you kind of really need. You can start off small and then expand your um your range of students as the time goes on and as your team starts competing more. So Rogue Company isn't a club game that we have yet, but that's just because we haven't had students come forward with it. I can tell you for sure though, it's the same with like games like Call of Duty. I honestly think there's a bunch of Call of Duty students on campus. It's just finding those students to play at the club level. Someone needs to kind of reach out and be the forefront and leader of that, which is a great leadership opportunity. And I feel like for you being like a captain of a game. So going to any of these games is kind of just if it's not there, you just take the leadership, and I help you as much as possible to get as many students to play with you. But kind of going back towards more about the service and things like that, it's a great opportunity to have internships or find different job opportunities within esports. Because the St. Louis video game community is so tight, you pretty much are able to land not only at SLU, but also just have the networking opportunity and connections to find um, other opportunities as well. I can kind of go more into those job opportunities when I bring them up later in a further slide. Um, but something that I think you guys are going to be really interested in is what our esports facility is like. I know this is a very big thing that's happening within the collegiate scene. Pretty much every program has an esports facility, but what they kind of use that facility for is varies among school for school. So, making sure that you know before you choose a college what that if you can even access that facility or what that facility is mainly used for, is very important. So St. Louis University's esports facility is a club slash varsity facility. So you can still come into the facility even if you aren't a member of the varsity team, post COVID at least. We have a facility full with 12 computers and 3 console stations, pretty much for your students. The console stations are equipped with a game library, so we pay for the games that are already on there with Xbox or with PlayStation, and you can pretty much come in there at any point in time. The computers themselves, they're 6 of them are scheduled for varsity members only, but the other 6 are pretty much for club use. So you kind of schedule those with me as a team, and you're able to play on those computers. And if you have like a match or if you have practice time, you can use the university computers to be able to play um, those games. It's really nice because you're able to uh, play on the university internet, which in terms of things like League of Legends and Valorant is insane because we have the servers pretty much right next to SLU. We average around 12 ping uh, per these computers, and it's done exponential for these players' improvements. We actually have players coming from other schools importing who are transferring over, specifically for how nice the ping is at SLU. Especially for games like League of Legends and Valorant, when the ping in California or like at Wisconsin is around like 60, to go from 60 to 12 is absolutely insane. And I think that's a really great way to advertise and help you guys kind of sell your guys' programs to a lot of people. Is that St. Louis is just a great place to be when it comes to video games, not only for the actual like schooling itself, but just like the physical prowess and the physical like advantage that we have over other colleges. And also, this is just a little fun thing that I like to add, but we're also a Red Bull sponsor school, so we get free Red Bull all the time too. So if your students want to come in, get something to study for, you get a free Red Bull every time you come in the lab. It's just a fridge that kind of sits there, and we get it stocked every week. It's nice for the players too, and all the students. We have a bunch of students just come in and just take it too, so it's a nice way to get some influx into the lab. Um, but on top of the esports facility, there's a lot of other places that you can play around campus as well. Because we only have 12 computers, it makes it so that there's a lot more students on campus that really want to play video games all the time. And St. Louis University has the tools and means to give you guys those resources to, just right next door actually. And I really want to bring that up here too, because I want to emphasize how much of a hub St. Louis is going to be in esports in the next 5 years. So I was talking before about my friend Brandon, who is opening up who helps us with intramurals. But St. Louis itself is going to become a major hub for esports arenas within the next year. In fact, by the end of 2021, there should be around 3 different esports arena being built. One in Brentwood, one in West County, and then one right next to St. Louis University. The one right next to us is called that's being built is called Frontier, which is ran by Mission Control, and it's pretty much an esports arena that you can kind of come in. There's a restaurant and bar also inside too. It kind of functions just like our esports lab, in which you kind of schedule to go in, and you're able to participate and play in these tournaments that they host, or in your own play on your own time. It's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of like a PC bong or a PC cafe that they have in Japan. You're able to just come in and play. Hopefully, this is what we're planning on being the St. Louis University Arena, where we're going to be hosting events and having tournaments in here as well, with spectators coming in and watch us play against other collegiate teams. So this is something that I'm looking really forward to within the next coming year. I think it's going to bring a lot of attention not only towards SLU, but just the general populace of esports, because having it be literally a 5-minute walk away from SLU, I think it's right next to one of our dorms, um, and you're pretty much able to just go in and play there, is a great sign for esports to come here at in St. Louis. And I think it's a great way to kind of hang out with your friends too. Whether or not that is playing in the intramurals, you can do that here, or you can do that in the esports lab. Those are all the different opportunities that you have when it comes to playing. Or if it's just you want to casually play Rogue Company or Fortnite or some other game with your friends, these are also hosting events nonstop. They should be hosting tournaments every week. So having that right next door is really nice for us, and allows you to kind of branch out not just from SLU, but also the rest of the esports community. But that's kind of all I have today. A lot of the things I kind of want to do is answer any questions that you guys have, whether about SLU or anything about the program. I can talk more about the SLU academics as well. This is kind of just an esports focused type of presentation, but I can definitely go more into detail about um, things about our school itself, because I was just a student there last year, so I know a lot about just the process and everything. Do I have a system for students looking to go into coaching? That's a great question. It really depends on what game you're going towards, because we always have a club-oriented program. Um, you always have an opportunity to do things like coaching. So with our varsity program, we kind of keep that with different student staff and kind of have a rank disparity for that. But for our club programs, that's pretty much free game for you guys. I help the students who want to find coaching or team management. Those Each of those teams that are in those club programs need either a team manager or a coach. Um, and typically we have either a team captain become that, or we have a student who wants to step up to do that sort of thing. Um, we do have a screening process when it comes to coaches. So we do test you on like how much you actually know before you kind of get into that, because with these club teams, their aim is to still win in the very end. So we make sure that we root out the players who are just kind of saying they would just want to coach and who are actually trying to get into coaching. But that screening process is done by the e-board of the club actually, who is kind of like elected by the different captains of the teams. So there are multiple different ways to get a leadership position in the club level, and it's a really great way to kind of get involved, even if you don't really want to compete and practice as much as you want to do with the teams and stuff like that. Um, and I think it's like, for example, when I was a Smash player in college for my first 3 years, 3 years of college, I started off as a player, and eventually I made my way as a coach and kind of left the scene, just because I wasn't playing as much as a lot of the kids on campus were. So um, you can make that transition later on. You can do that right off the bat. That's totally up to you. It's kind of just how you want to kind of transition into that position yourself, and then talking with the e-board members and trying to get their perspective on what they want to do. Does SLU have an academic program appropriate for students looking to go into the business side of esports? That is also a really good question. So SLU has a lot of different esports components when it comes to um, their actual degrees. We don't have a specific esports degrees like others colleges do. I actually think I have this I have a little bias towards that. I think that in order to get a job in esports, you should really focus on getting a uh, normal type of degree. But we do have a lot of different components when it comes to esports. So whether or not that is esports management with our sports management program, I know a lot of students who have gotten into sports management um, have looked a lot into branching out into how to make a business proposal with esports. That's actually how Mission Control came to be, was through our MBA program. They started off with a business oriented, and they did their final project on esports management, intramurals, and things like that. On top of that, we have a lot of more obscure things with esports as well, not just business. One of the greatest things that I ever saw, even before we started the esports program, was that we taught a lot of classes through video games that you wouldn't typically think would actually have an video game component. Our Italian professor actually teaches Italian through the lenses of Assassin's Creed. So you learn about Italian history, you learn about how to speak Italian through just playing through Assassin's Creed with Italian dub and English subtitles. And then on top of that, we have a computer science class called Game Design that allows you to learn the entire process of designing a game. The first day of class, the professor Jason Fritz actually teaches the class through playing God of War. So there's a lot of different. It's not just the business side of things and learning about the process of becoming an esports oriented entrepreneur, but also just on top of that, there's a lot of just different lenses of teaching through video games, kind of having video games be that medium to kind of connect towards these young people who are coming to the university. Do new players get to do tournaments too? Yeah, of course. In fact, new players, they're pretty much thrown into tournaments right off the bat. The season starts super early on, and what we want to do is create as many teams as possible for you guys to play in. So if you are interested in playing on a club team, it doesn't matter what level you are, other than the fact that you might be played on like the A team or B team. After that, you can pretty much play in either the open series. Pretty much a lot of these tournaments that we actually compete in, such as C Star, such as CLOL, they actually have different divisions for you guys. So unlike sports, there's not really a Division A or Division B or Division One, Division Two with like this type of school, but there's like an open division or a contenders division, which you're still able to play in. And we just need to be able to get you guys as many players as possible to make a team for that too. So usually you're placed in a lower tier tournament and playing against other schools that are about your level. And the varsity players help you kind of guide you when they watch your reviews and things like that too, to make it so that you're able to improve later on. And those are still scholarships too. The tournaments that you're able to compete in, you're still competing for money, just like any of these varsity members as well. So there's always a reason to be competing at the highest level or trying your very best in these tournaments. And if like the club tournaments aren't your thing either, like I said before, there are definitely intramural programs as well that can help you accommodate you, and those are a little bit more casual. You don't have to practice every other day or every day like the varsity teams kind of have to do. You can kind of do those things on your own time. You can not practice at all, or you can practice once a week. It's totally based on your schedule. If lower skill players do end up getting better, could they possibly become varsity members even if they start on the B teams? Of course. I always encourage players who start off on a B team to play to the best of their abilities. In fact, at least in varsity Overwatch this past year, we had players who were on the B team who eventually made it up to the varsity level and were able to be given that scholarship money too. It's not just with the varsity teams too; it's the same with the club teams. If you're on a JV club team, to get on the varsity club team, you can kind of just play in those lower level tournaments and improve as much as possible. And tryouts happen every year, so no one's spot is safe on the team, but also anyone can get onto the team if that makes sense. Which I really like to see. It keeps players on their toes and makes everyone try to improve as much as possible. And there a lot of times with these different teams too, people on lower level teams typically act as substitutes for the higher level teams as well. To go back to our League of Legends post that I talked about before, everyone on the B team for League of Legends or the JV team will be a sub for the varsity team. So if there's ever a time where we need someone to come in and play at the highest level, you need to we make sure that these JV players are prepared to be subbed in and play at the highest level. That's nice to see, Merc. I'm really glad that I'm able to teach you at least something. Um, like I said, St. Louis itself is a great hub, and it's huge. In the next couple of years, with so many arenas being built, Maryville, me, at SLU, MOBAP is one of those schools too. These are all schools with bolstering varsity programs that I think that are really gonna make a mark within the St. Louis scene. And in Missouri as well, we have two juggernaut schools with Columbia College and Maryville University. And I'm hoping with this new roster of League of Legends that I will be there next year. So um, the aim is to be one of the best schools and one of the best developmental schools for the rest of these students. And I hope that it's able to create not only environment for these varsity players, but also just a kind of pride and joy for these players who don't typically make it. Kind of gives them something to look forward to when they come to school. Video game programming. Do you mean like comp sci things? Are you talking about things like Java, C++, things like that? Or are you talking about like I don't know the specifics about the actual like what programs they have. I can tell you our comp sci program is pretty huge. So you can kind of once you kind of learn or go into that major, you kind of get the flexibility of choosing. I know Java is probably the first thing that you learn when coming into here. Actually, I'll post our computer science program in here for you. When it comes to specific like video game things, other than the game design specific class, a lot of the other classes that you'll learn in order to get to that video game programming part is through like those basic programming classes that you have to do for your first couple of years, and then you can kind of go into more the specific video game route. Um, I actually have a one of my friends who goes to SLU. He just landed a job at Charter, and he was doing an internship there for really long. But his entire like capstone for SLU was designing like um one of these like very small but like casual video games where it's like you have you ever seen those video games where you like put in your stats or do like different chores and they give you like different RPG stat boosts? That was like the game that he designed for his capstone class, and it's really cool and cute. It's like one of those like different chibi anime characters, and it's one of the coolest things that I've seen from a senior project. And we actually have a lot of different ways to get kind of accelerate your process as a comp sci student too. There's an accelerated bachelor's to master's program. We also have graduate programs for things like comp sci or things like cybersecurity. In fact, most of the people I've actually been recruiting are going to be taking either a undergrad of cybersecurity or a grad school of cybersecurity, which I think is something that it's really good to get into right now. And on top of that, the comp sci program at SLU, I know multiple different students that just love the program here. Um, we do have like on the website that I sent you, it has a great checklist of things. The required classes, which is a great like way to kind of look into what you would be studying in the comp sci portion of SLU, but also gives you a pathway and see how long a comp sci degree will take you. And if you want to do a little bit faster of a degree, the accelerated bachelor's to master's is a great way to kind of do that as well. If a junior or senior in high school is interested in being recruited to one of the varsity programs, what would you be recommended um, them to be doing right now? Um, One of the things I highly recommend, depending on the program itself, you kind of want to look at where their kind of placement is or rank disparity is in that high school. I mean, in that college first. Because one of the things that I talk to a lot of these students about is whether or not they make the cut pretty much or are kind of on their radar. Um, if they don't make the rank like average of their team currently, then I'd pretty much just say grind the game as much as possible to get that. So you can, when you do reach out, it does give them like a little bit more of a reason to kind of look into you. A second thing to do is kind of um, is to be the person to reach out towards those high school towards those college coaches. I can tell you one of the weakest points of a lot of directors currently is that they really don't know who to recruit when it comes to esports, because there's not really the programs where it's state finals and things like that. Those are just starting. I know MOSEF is doing that too, but because that's in the infancy phase, not all these colleges are going to be looking at those things yet. So especially at the start of this esports kind of explosion within collegiate and high school, I highly recommend those juniors or seniors to be the first ones to reach out towards those college directors. I think one of the greatest things that I've seen are people who've reached out to me, and I kind of look at their resume after that, and I say, "Hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for." And because they're the first persons to be the ones to reach out to me, I am highly more inclined to go and recruit this specific person because I already know they're interested in the school that they're going towards. Um, I've had people who I've reached out to personally who I personally have seen kind of lose interest or not be as enthusiastic about doing tryouts or scrimmages with me or like work with me about doing that program. I will most likely lose interest in that person later on in during throughout the recruiting process. Um, so for a high school senior or junior who really wants to go to a specific program, definitely reach out to that director or coach, and kind of show them your resume, show them the rank that you are in, if it's a game that has a rank or things like that. Um, on top of that, definitely continue to play at the high school level as much as possible, but don't just stop at the high school level. Play as many amateur scenes as possible, whether or not that is for Overwatch, that is trying to make contenders with Open Division. With League of Legends, try to play in as many amateur tournaments as possible within Tier 2. Get picked up by an amateur team too. That's also a great way to be recruited. Be as much as a part of the path to pro scene as possible, in my opinion. Don't just stop with the high school scene. Continue to branch out to as many competitions as possible. For high schools not opening any sorts of esports program, what do you recommend for students to get one started? Also, on top, that I personally never know there was where to sign up for amateur tournaments and such. Where can you find such a thing? Um, so for high school programs, I think the best way to kind of gather that recognition, and this is from someone who started a college program, so I kind of a lot of these teachers can help you a lot more actually. But for my recommendation, the best way to kind of get recognition is get as many students as possible to just be a group of individuals, whether or not that's your friends, whether or not that's just people with common interests. Having a large student body who already have um, without any backing is a great way to have your voice heard. Is just having power in numbers. Secondly, I would try to find a teacher or someone to kind of give you that kind of connection within you and the administration. I think that's the best way to kind of get a program within your high school. Um, it's the same way. It's the same with college too. When you're starting a college program, I didn't have um, fancy like computers or anything like that. All I had was a Nintendo Switch or like a Wii U. This was back when we had Wii U's, which is a weird thing to say because I feel like they're not that old. Um, but you have your Wii U and then you have your monitor, and I would lug it across campus, and I would just find a random classroom that no one was in, and I would play video games for about 3 hours with my friends, and we'd host tournaments out of that one classroom. It was really small, really janky. But eventually, like when you get enough students coming in, and when you have enough people coming to your tournaments, you talk to a professor or teacher that also shares the same passion. That's how you get that connection towards higher administration and try to start the conversation as much as possible with people who are older than you or people who are higher up than you. It's it's you have power in numbers and you have powers in a loud voice, is what I can say. For amateur tournaments, Merc, this is coming from a Smash perspective, but for the local scene of Smash, that's the easiest way to get involved, is just going to as many locals as possible. But for more online events and tournaments like that, I'd say looking up things like Face It, Game Battles, ESEA, all these different organizations usually have a path to pro system, that I think that a lot of people don't really get into until it's kind of too late, or they kind of feel gatekept from going into those things. Definitely look out for those different path to pro tournaments. Kind of look towards. It depend. It really varies on the type of game that you're getting into. League of Legends, those just they just created proving grounds, which is a great way to get involved. Um, or you can look up Upsurge. They also have a lot of different tournaments. And it's not just colleges and high schools that compete in those. It's amateur teams, so everyone can compete in them. So I think that's the greatest part of it, is that you get you're placed on the same playing field as all these players, and if you're able to succeed in that aspect, then colleges see that you're also trying to go to colleges. So they're like, oh wow, this person's succeeding in the amateur scene, so and they're doing well, then they're going to do amazing in the collegiate scene. Can you list those websites? I'll probably just type it. What do clubs and professionals get from winning tournaments? It depends on the tournament. There are major differences based upon what game you're playing and also what type of tournament you're playing. So the big one for CLOL is scholarship money. For like League of Legends, and there's a bunch of different tournaments on the side that might give you some extra cash. Probably like $1,000 or $100, depending on the range. Then depending how big it is. Sometimes it's keyboards, sometimes it's mice. I know we won GG Leagues, which is a regional tournament for in this past semester. We won a trophy. We won a set of HyperX headsets, and we won $300 for the program. So it's completely different. For Smash, yeah, for Evo it could be a pro controller. For professionals, it could be like thousands of dollars. For I think Dota has the highest earnings of any game. But for at least the collegiate level, it's typically collegiate scholarship, or it's merchandise or hardware. Oh shoot! I just forgot that I had my Twitter open. I'm sorry, guys. We'll just leave that off. Hopefully, there's nothing. I think it was just my replies. We just released some merchandise for Slew too, so I'm getting a lot of pings about the merchandise. I do not want to hold anyone here longer that doesn't want to be here anymore or who don't have any more questions. So for those of you that are still asking questions, keep going. I will stay in here for a little bit. But I'm pretty much done with the rest of the session though, and I want to thank you guys for having me too. It was great to talk to you guys. But Red Wolf, if you have anything else, yeah, go for it. What would you suggest for people interested in Smash tournaments? That's amazing because I am a Smash tournament organizer, so I have a lot of things for you to kind of get involved in Smash. The Smash scene in St. Louis is actually amazingly huge, and the best way I think you could get involved is joining our Discord and Facebook. The Discord I'll actually post right after I'm done talking. But that's where I'll post all the local events that we'll have, and it's the best way to kind of learn where you are in the terms of the meta and how good you are in terms of the St. Louis players. But also on top of that, after you're kind of introduced to the local scene, we encourage those players to go towards those major events too. So after COVID, when we have major tournaments such as Smash and Slash, Super Smash Con, the Big House, Genesis 6, those are all events that we all travel to together as a scene. Um, so it's a great way to kind of get involved in the start, kind of learn the ropes and kind of learn how to play Smash, and then go towards those more pro level tournaments and things like that. I've been to so many majors, and it's probably my favorite part of Smash. But I don't think I would have ever gone to a major tournament if I didn't start off with my local team.